Child trafficking and child labor are two of the gravest forms of child abuse in the world today. They are multi-billion-dollar industries that involve an estimated 218 million children in developing countries worldwide. Of these children, 49.3 million work in sub-Saharan Africa. The Ghana Statistical Service estimated that approximately 27.2% of children ages 5 to 14 in Ghana were working in 2001. The majority of working children are unpaid workers on family farms or in family enterprises. Children work as domestics, porters, hawkers, miners, quarry workers, and fare collectors. In rural areas, children can be found working in picking, fishing, herding, and as contract farm labor. Child labor and child trafficking are in violation of Human Right Number 4 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. No slavery. Child labor is defined as an act whereby children under the age of 17 work in conditions unfavorable to them. Child trafficking is defined as the act of recruiting, transporting, or harboring a child for the purpose of sexual or labor exploitation. Most trafficked children in Ghana are recruited on false promises of education, professional training, and paid employment, then transported within and across regional and national borders, sometimes under life-threatening conditions. Trafficking within the country is more prevalent than transnational trafficking. Both boys and girls are trafficked within Ghana for forced labor in agriculture, the fishing industry, and street hawking. The government of Ghana estimated in 2005 that up to 40,000 children worked as porters or kayaye on Ghana's streets. Of the nearly 218 million engaged in child labor around the world, 69% or 150 million are working in agriculture. In Ghana, child agricultural workers frequently haul heavy loads of produce for long hours in the scorching heat and are exposed to toxic pests. The fishing industry has the highest number of trafficked children in Ghana, most between the ages of 6 and 14. The majority of these children work in the northern parts of the Volta Lake, in life-threatening situations. Most children are forced to dive in deep waters to remove or disentangle trapped nets in the lake. Children who dive into the lake often get injured and may even die as a result. The underlying cause of most child trafficking is poverty. Children are often trafficked because they or their families desperately need money and because poverty makes them vulnerable. Factors like war or natural disasters, family dislocation, lack of laws against trafficking, or domestic violence put children at higher risk. Girls are especially at risk because in many cultures they are considered to be of a lower status than boys. Sometimes children or their parents are so desperate to earn money that they are willing to believe traffickers offer a real chance of employment or education for their children. Often children are unaware of their rights and they can easily be tricked or coerced into going with traffickers. In one of the fishing communities in Jamestown, a young boy named Tebby shared his story of trafficking.
A man calling himself my uncle took me from my parents, promising to enroll me in school and give me an education. But when we got to Jamestown, I was immediately forced to go on fishing expeditions. I finally gathered the courage to ask my uncle about my support education, which is when he told me that he was not my real uncle. A fisherman had paid 10 Ghana cedis to engage my service as a fisher boy. He only promised me an education so that I will agree to come with him.
Tebby was so distraught about his situation that he nearly committed suicide during one of his numerous expeditions on the sea. He could not understand why his parents sold him to a stranger and for only 10 Ghana cedis. There are similar reports of children being given away, leased, or sold by their parents to work in various sectors. In Ghana, many children were also reportedly sold into involuntary servitude for either labor or sexual exploitation. Child labor occurs all around us. In urban centers, street children work mainly as truck pushers, porters, and sales workers. How many working children do you see in a day? Child labor damages children in many ways. The work that they do is often dangerous or physically damaging. For example, children in the fishing industry are exposed to a number of diseases and dangerous situations while casting and drawing nets in deep waters. Youth working in agriculture suffer deep cuts from machetes and often have no access to medical care. Children in the sex industry have a high risk of catching STDs like HIV and AIDS. Psychologically, the effects of child trafficking can be devastating. Children can suffer acutely from being separated from their families and taken from their homes, as well as from the traumatic conditions and abuse they have suffered. Under ILO Convention 182, child trafficking is considered one of the worst forms of child labor. Ghana is a signatory of this convention in addition to several others which protect the rights of the child. Child labor and child trafficking are taking a serious toll on our nation. These inhuman and abusive acts are putting the lives of our country's children in jeopardy. Every day, our nation loses productive future leaders because of child labor and child trafficking. What do you see in the future of Ghana's children? The government and civil society are currently engaged in efforts to stop these practices, but encounter several barriers to their success, such as lack of transportation and logistics for investigations, and the absence of a child labor reporting hotline. Even if children are rescued, our country still requires the processing and rehabilitation centers needed to reintegrate them into society. We must take immediate action on this issue. A massive educational campaign must be run through the media in our country, and we must support the police in setting up the necessary hotlines. Our government must work together with civil society to institutionalize a community projects work program that provides parents with financially and emotionally rewarding jobs to reduce the need for child labor. We can no longer watch as the future of our children slips through their working fingers.
Swallow you with hands held high into the sky. So